What is up? What is up, everybody? I have returned. That's right. We are here today for the second episode of The Greatest People I've Ever Met. We're going to be doing this series for the first few episodes where I'm basically going to go through and interview everybody here at the Pantheon. So we've already got Enosh, the founder of Point Dexter Lounge and the Pantheon, and obviously the person who came up with this whole idea of starting this whole stream network and all of that type of stuff. Today we have Brian. We're going to be interviewing, of course, all the others, but I thought it would be a cool way for everybody who watches the channel regularly and who's been watching and trying to keep up with all the different shows and all the different things happening, just to get to know us better, to get to know the hosts, to get to know the different shows, and to get to know our backgrounds. So that's kind of the whole point and the idea behind all of this. Obviously, before we get started, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends about this. Let everybody know about the Point Dexter Pantheon. We have a ton of different shows going on here. So if you don't like me interviewing people, then you can check out Brian talking about Star Trek and food. You can watch Max talking about whatever the hell Max talks about on Saturdays on his show, To the Max. You can watch Enosh in the panels at night, Jiving with Jack on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There is so much happening here at the lounge, and we're all just super excited and grateful to try and bring you content that is fun and entertaining. And like I said, we're just all trying to have a good time here. But before we get started, before we bring him in, I do want to say hello to everybody in the chat, everybody that stopped by. What is up to Darth CPO? Good to see you here. Lord Jason Sneeze. I feel like I just want to say Lord Sneeze. I don't know if that's, I'm sorry. It's just the way that but Lord Sneeze, good to see you here. Thank you so much. Anthony Grigsby, good to see you, man. As always, Mr. Wayne. Yes. I have a baby face that I hate so much. I feel 12 years old, and I want my beard back. Even though it was a wannabe beard, I still want it. What's up, by the way? I have some important questions. Where's your mustache? You know what? I was trying to trim it today, and we all know how that goes. If you don't do it right, you just might as well shave the whole thing. And so I look like I just graduated my senior year. But without or before we move on, anyway, let's just bring him in, folks. Let's just bring in Brian. Let's get this show started. Let's talk. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the one, the only, Brian, Master of None.
What's happening?
Not
much, man. I am doing well. I'm doing very good. I got to sleep today. Nice. I didn't have to really do much other than watch the nephews, which, sometimes a chore, but wasn't too bad today. Doing good. Doing good.
Thank you, man. No, hey, and congratulations on 10 Forward, man. That show's killing it. I think it's so cool because I know you've been wanting to do like a Star Trek focused thing for like a long time. So I did get to see like you and William's episode. I think it was last week or the week before, and hearing you guys talk about it and just your passion and all that, it is so fun to watch you guys. So that's awesome, man. But before we move on, we want to tell everybody, just kind of like, if they haven't for some god unknown reason, if you're watching this show and you haven't watched any of the other shows on Point Dexter Lounge, that's a real shock. But if you haven't, Brian, what is your show 10 Forward kind of about? What's the whole deal with that?
I kind of enjoyed talking about food when I was doing Brian, Master of Noms. It was a really good show. It was really, I got a good engagement from it. People were digging it. It was good to find out what people enjoyed in terms of food. But then I also like Star Trek. So when Enosh approached me to come on the Pantheon, he wanted a Star Trek show, and I was like, he was asking me what kind of show I wanted. And obviously I want to talk about Star Trek, but then I was like, I kind of want to work in food there too. So it's kind of fun. So like we have segments on there, like I'll show you. 10 Forward presents Evening at the Holodeck, where basically we could just kind of talk about different topics, because the holodeck is just basically a place to have fun. And then the Weekly Replicator is what I call my food segment. it tends to work. But like I said, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, the food part of it I really enjoy, but the Star Trek stuff has been really fascinating because, this is a DC centric, channel for the most part. So it's really fun to see the people who were originally fans of Star Trek kind of not necessarily get swayed over, but at least try to keep an open mind about it. That's something that I've tried to, just reiterate to people when I talk about these shows. It's like, just keep an open mind about it.
Sure.
If you see something like that it would potentially bother you, let it slide. That's kind of how I look at these shows going forward, because not to say that they're without controversy, but it's been a somewhat controversial show historically speaking. So
well, I'll tell you what, man, it's been really cool watching between obviously my boyfriend Bradley is very into Star Trek. You're very into Star, so watching your stuff, and then I've been watching Picard with him, and that's literally like the only modern day Star Trek that I ever I watch. But it does get me really interested, honestly, like hearing about it and hearing you guys talk about it. And it's interesting when I look at kind of how you and Bradley are very, like you said, very open-minded and very just kind of like you're enjoying what's happening so far in Picard and these types of things. But then you look at the internet, and obviously a lot of people are not very happy, or you look at chats or whatever. The rage. So, and I'm curious, and I know this isn't, you've been involved with some other pretty wild fandoms that like to take things and go a little far and stuff, but I'm curious, what is it about this new Star Trek and about things that are kind of going on in that universe that makes you want to stay positive, or that keeps you optimistic like that, in that sense?
Okay. Well, as far as like the optimism, that's kind of always been there as far as Star Trek and fandom is concerned. And it's good that we are talking about Star Trek, because that kind of was the genesis, no pun intended, of the Fandom Menace. Like a lot of your early Fandom Menace channels were commenting on that first season of Discovery back in 2017. That was before the Last Jedi came out. So like that was pre-Nerd Rage to the extreme. But
right.
The seeds were started and people were burning, and the only people that were there on the internet were like Doomcock talking about it, or other people like that. So I'm like, okay, well, they're the only people talking about it, and they love talking about old Star Trek just like me, so I don't have a problem. So I got in. Just to say, I was never on camera, or I never did any videos as far as that's concerned. Like I didn't even get involved in with YouTube in this capacity until years later. But it just kind of set off a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
And after a while, it just kind of got a little tired. And this is right around the time that Soloed came out, and I'd gotten tired of listening to these guys go on and on and on, because it was basically just complaining about the same thing over and over and over again. It's not going to change. It's not going to change anything at the end of the day. It's just I guess you probably feel better venting, but I don't get much out of that. I mean, I do bitch a lot.
Well, I think I think probably you would say this too, is it's the intent, right? Like obviously you're incredibly passionate about Star, so obviously there are things you don't like and we can talk about and stuff, but it's the intent of, at the end of the day, you still love
I still love the property. I don't get too hung up on the tiny details that a lot of your Star Trek fans tend to do. Unfortunately, it's one of those shows where it's like, well, in episode 125 in Next Generation, this is what happened. I can't even tell you the name of that episode. I'm probably sure it's in like the 5th, 6th season or something like that. But anyways, there's that level. I mean, I started out as a Star Wars fan. So for me, action, adventure in a Star Trek, that does not bother me one bit.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that they're like, oh my God, explosions in space. Lens flares, JJ, come on, man. We're all entitled to our opinion, but they're all like opinions are like a-holes. Everybody's got one, and they all stink.
It's true. No, I mean, and you're right. I think that's at the end of the day, it's these are all characters that you grew up with and that you love, and you want to keep an open mind to. I mean, like people like me, right? That didn't grow up watching anything of the original, and stuff. I'm not,
Neither did I.
Picard may be the thing that gets me into Star Trek, or some of the other newer stuff, because that's just what's on right now. With Star Trek.
Well, that's how I always look at it. Like, it's a foray into the universe. It's like Star Wars. How old were you when you experienced your first Star Wars? That Star Wars means something to you. Exactly. It could be the prequels. More than likely, it is. Yeah. So it's like, it wasn't for me. Actually, I didn't really have Star Wars as a kid because it came out when the year I was born.
Okay.
I mean, we watched it, but it never came out theatrically. I never had that opportunity. So like even the special editions, I did not watch those in the theaters. Like when they re-released them in the mid '90s, I don't remember going to see them. Yeah. But no, my first theatrical Star Wars movie was Episode 1.
Phantom Menace. Yeah.
So, but no, back to the fandom thing. As far as that goes, after Solo is when I started kind of getting disillusioned, and then I found people like Max,
right?
People who were kind of in a similar boat. Went down that road, walked the paces. Laughed when Kathleen Kennedy was going to get fired. We've all been down that road at least once or twice, especially when we were upset about things going on in Star Wars. Because let's be fair, one way, shape, or form, we weren't completely happy with what we got as the sequels.
Yep.
But like I said, I just don't think burning Mickey Mouse in effigy is the way to go.
Yeah. No, I agree. And obviously I think that's so. Star Trek seems to be, and I know I've heard this a lot, between like Star Trek and Star Wars, those two fandoms are like really, really die hard.
I would say the funny thing is that hardcore ones, yes. Yeah. Like in the movie Fanboys, there is truth to that bit of the movie. If you haven't watched that movie, go watch it.
Oh no, it's a phenomenal movie.
If you're a nerd and haven't watched Fanboys,
phenomenal film.
I don't know what
and it will make you cry.
It did a couple times, especially getting in the van. Rush.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, jeez. But no, you're right. It's a brilliant and these two fandoms are just so. But do you feel like that whole kind of? Do you feel like that hardcore fandom has been there the whole time for all of these different properties, DC, Star Wars, or do you feel like because Star Wars and Star Trek have been so vocal, now all the other ones are all kind of starting to it's becoming more of a saturated thing, this whole divide in fandom in general, or you have this group in a fandom that is just constantly trashing or not happy with what's happening? It's almost like a popular thing now in the fandom.
Well, it's popular on the internet to bitch about things. I think in 2001, Kevin Smith hit it right on the nose. When Jay and Silent Bob were explaining or Ben Affleck is explaining the internet to Jay and Silent Bob.
Yep.
And remember that they're fictional characters.
Yep.
But no. Okay, so as far as fandoms go, it's really weird. So my first experience on YouTube was the Grey Order, and that was they were trying to kind of bridge the gap between the two sides of the fandom, the people who were positive about Star Wars and people who were negative about Star Wars. And I was like, hey, I can get behind that. It's okay to have problems with it, but it's not okay to be a dick. So that's kind of how we were doing. And boy, the fun and hilarity ensued. No, and then the Snyder Cut stuff came out. Yeah. And that's when I got into the Snyder fandom. With Max and stuff. That's when the Grey Order, I don't know if you know, Grey Order, but Grey Order, 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 Grey Or kind of went splitsky, and which is, to be honest, there wasn't much Star Wars going on at the time. This is like right before the pandemic started in 2020. Right. So, but that's when I met Enosh. That's when I met the Four Nerds. That's when I met everybody. I even met Sil, Zod, everybody. Like, those are the streams where Andy Signor would come on and start, doing his shtick, with Max and all that. Those are my teeth cutting moments.
Wow.
And then, but I got to see that fandom bloom into it. But see, the problem from what I see with the Snyder fans or the fandom of that, is that you have a lot of people who like traditional DC fare, like, your traditional Batman, your traditional Superman, they are very set in their ways with tradition, not unlike Star Trek. Okay. You got a lot of people who are like, Captain Kirk is the only captain. There's no other captain, period. It's like Christopher Reeve is the only Superman, and anyone else who plays him is just a bit character trying to be Christopher Reeve.
Right.
Okay. So when somebody like Zack Snyder puts out Man of Steel and it's not anything what they're expecting, of course they're not going to like it.
Exactly.
So that's something that I think a lot of people need to take into account as far as perspective is concerned. Yes, you like something, but there's also probably an equal group that does not like the thing that you like.
Exactly.
Which, like I said, that's just natural. That's the internet. That's the YouTube game, I like to call it. It's, that negativity sells, and, positivity can go to hell.
Basically. And that's true. I mean, definitely, a lot of people have different ideas and interpretations of what character their characters or their whatever it should be and stuff. And when something happens that it's not, it seems like people get very defensive and very into it. Do you think and do you think that's something that's because of the divide just in fandom, probably just in, I'll be honest, probably just in age and in different things and how things are happening, obviously what's happening now in all of these different properties, Star Trek, Star Wars, DC, they're trying to obviously find a new audience, and they're looking to grow their audience and stuff. So do you think that is, obviously a big part of it is that in that divide is just the age gap of trying to expand
on 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Star Trek, even with Star Wars, look, they're putting out all these cartoon shows that are canon.
Right.
So grown-ups have to watch them if they want to get the entire story. I think that's pretty cool. I like that interactivity of it. It's the same thing with the books in Star Wars. It kind of forces you to pick up a book and read. It fills in the gaps, and I like that. That's kind of what I want out of a book. But the age difference, 100%, I can see it. That's what I keep talking about with the older Star Wars fans versus the younger Star Wars fans, or the newer Star Trek fans versus the older Star Trek fans. I came into Star Trek in the 90s when it was cranking on all cylinders.
Right.
Okay, it was out theatrically. There were 3 shows all in the works, all within the same time period. Like Next Generation, DS9, and Voyager were all in some form of production at the same time. They were working on Generations at that time. So they were cooking ass in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
But those older fans that kind of Star Trek had to grow on them, because there was a lot of Next Generation fans that were younger, and that was their first Star Trek.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it all ties back into what your first experience is with that property. Like for me, if the original series had been my entry into Star Trek, I would not have liked it.
Interesting.
I thought it was boring. It was my dad's show. It'd always be on in the afternoons on a weekend, on a lazy day. I got into
Bradley's
Star
sitting
Trek.
here shaking his head, going, "Yeah, I agree."
If it wasn't for Deep Space Nine and that first episode that I watched, I would not have cared.
Wow.
Like, and then after that, as soon as I watched the episode, it was Deep Space Nine, the season premiere of season 1 or season 3, and when they got the Defiant for the first time, and they're searching for the Changeling's homeworld. Fantastic episode, space battles, all that good stuff. My Star Wars fan was like,
yeah,
this is amazing. Let's do this. So Star Trek was on every day after school. So there you go. It was there. It was available, and I got into it. But like, it's different for now. Like now, you have Prodigy for the kids to get into. I wouldn't recommend Lower Decks for your kids, but some of this newer stuff. I mean, older kids, yes. I mean, this is kind of it is newer Trek is definitely aimed towards an older audience. I'll say, like, this is not your mom's Next Generation or your dad's, whoever watched it got you into it. But yeah, no, it's definitely not. And it's the same thing. Like, I hope they bring back movies, but if they don't, I'm okay with that. You know? So.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. Like, that was my biggest foray into Star Trek, right? Was the movie, the J.J. Abrams movie, and then you had Into Darkness and all of that, and even beyond. I mean, I liked all of them. I think probably the best one's still the first, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think it's interesting how, just how much people either decide to accept or reject whatever a new iteration, is. Yeah. And so, for me being on the outside in, I know a lot of people, right, have issues with Into Darkness, and it takes Khan is a big part of, the Star Trek universe and stuff. I mean, I recently just figured out that, because I've never seen the original Star Trek movie, I recently just realized that JJ just kind of basically flipped the ending. It's pretty much the same ending as Wrath of Khan, except it's Spock that's the one is dying.
It's Into Darkness.
Right, yeah, it's like, oh god. So I don't know. I think it's like you said. It's you got to find something with the property that gets you invested like that, or find gets you to care like that. Because as much as I like the first movie and stuff, I didn't care enough to be upset with Into Darkness, or I thought it was cool for what it was, but with obviously all the other fandom stuff going on, so what would you say is the most worrying aspect as you see these fandoms kind of start to? Because I do feel like this is becoming more mainstream. Like it's more of a focus now. When you talk about a fandom, you're talking about the crappy ones, the crappy fans that are starting shit.
Of course,
and so. What do you see kind of as the main worry, the main thing that gets you like, oh, this is where it could get really, really bad?
Well, when ninjas start taking over, that's what happened with Star Wars. It's what happened with Star Trek. It's what happens with most fandoms in general. I mean, at least in my experience. The best thing that you can do, honestly, is to not engage. Like, I haven't watched a Fandom Menace video in 2 years, and those have been the happiest 2 years of my life. You know, like, I mean, hell, throwing shade at them there for the first few months of being on the internet was fun too. But then I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? When you do that kind of criticism, you open yourself up for that kind of criticism, and it's like, nah, I don't need that in my life. And honestly, it's the methods I find between it. But as you're saying, what worries me the most is when the fringe takes over, and then they kind of, I don't want to use the word toxify because I think it gets thrown around a lot, but it definitely spoils the adjoining apples in the box. Like if you get a brown spot, next thing you know, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and just going to fester. I think a lot of the fans need to realize that there's more people that watch these movies than themselves. Entitlement has a lot to do with it. I feel like people feel like they're owed something. Yeah. But it's like these movies are hundreds of millions of dollars and you spent $20 on a ticket. They don't owe you popcorn, do they?
Yeah, nope.
So, I mean, I would stop complaining just on that aspect alone. Studios don't owe you jack.
Yeah.
Like, period. I mean, I understand, they should listen to their customers, but they have other customers.
Exactly.
It's like, if you have a problem with the menu at Taco Bell, what do? Do you sit there and complain about it? Because they're just help the next line.
Exactly.
Their money spends as good as yours does. So it's like, nah, dude, this whole thing with boycotts and all this nonsense, it's just the downvote campaigns and all this kind of stuff. That's what worries me, because it's just, I see that negativity popping up when you don't get what you want. And it's like, gosh, I don't want to rag on people, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of childish, But I understand. We all get that way, especially when we're passionate about something. So, like, I understand, but also I think people need to tone it down. That's across the board. Like, you want to talk about, like, historically speaking, let's go back to misinterpreting what is written down. I said the, you said the. You got to die.
You're right. Yeah. You got to die. It is game off.
I mean, what we're talking about is peanuts.
Yeah.
It's like, does anybody remember a time before Big Bang Theory? When it was still niche to be a nerd?
It's, yeah. No, it's, no. Man, Big Bang Theory really ruined things for us. That's a whole other, oh my God.
No, it really did. You're right. You, hey, nerds, you're cool being a nerd. Keep it up.
Right, yeah. No.
That worked out for the hardcore ones. Now everybody's like, oh, I'm such a nerd.
Right. No.
But honestly, though, that's the way anyone feels like when their turf gets entered. It's like music fans when they're like, somebody's wearing a Metallica shirt and they couldn't name an album.
Right.
Even though the name of the band is the name of one of the albums.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's. I think, especially stuff with the. I mean, I go back because you are right. I understand, right? You're a fan. You're passionate about this stuff. It sucks to see, especially when. It feels like, and I'll be honest, it's like somebody like Warner Brothers isn't even really trying with some of these, the connected universe at all. But at the same time, yeah, no, I agree with you. When it comes, that's where I get scared, is I see that, stuff for the boycott, or I see, this whole thing of using an audience, right, that may want something or whatever, and just kind of leading them down this path of, it's coming with nothing to back it up, right?
Of course not. Yeah.
And so that's for me where I start to get worried, because then you see it spread so quickly in the people in the chat and the people, that it's like all of a sudden it's like these guys heard from God themselves, and now they're going to defend this to the day they die because a YouTuber said it, and so that's for me where I start to get really concerned, and even like, I don't know, I'm just so surprised, that
I'm not surprised. I saw this come in right when they dropped the article saying, "Hey, this is it, guys, and enjoy it."
Right.
You know, there was a lot of rage after that, and then it could just kind of spiral. But what I'm seeing now, though, and this is also troubling, is the other side. You know, the side that is just like, no, it's not going to happen. Shut up, you idiot. This, that, and the other thing. Okay, like,
right, yeah.
I think people could be a lot more diplomatic. I think people can mind their own business. You know, it might not be your thing, but it is someone else's thing, and to sit back and scoff and make fun of, I mean, that's kind of shitty.
Exactly. It's the same thing with the criticize. It's like just the idea of kind of talking shit, you know, amongst the fandom and stuff.
That's all it is. I mean, at the end of the day, like, come on.
Yeah,
it's just it's back and forth shit talking, 100%. Like,
yeah, and you're right in this whole thing of like, you're right. Diplomacy, I think, is a big thing, and just going, you know.
Well, perfect example. Like, I went on Twitter and I went on a rant because of what happened between Saggy and, you know, Snyder Bros. Okay, I was like, you know what? Take this universe and shove it up your ass, basically. You know, and then I realized, you know, one, did I have to say that? You know, do I have to be the person that was like, oh, you know, I'm leaving this group, piss off?
Right.
You know, everybody does that, and you're entitled to do that, you know, but I kind of felt bad about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. If you want to be positive and be happy about something, that's great. For me, I've never been one to get my hopes up, because here's something I would urge some of my nerd friends to do. Go get a sports team. Find a sports team. Follow that sports team. Become a nerd about that sports team. Know everything there is to know. Seriously, because you might lose this year, but next year there's a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn to deal with loss.
This is true. This is
in
true,
that
especially
sense,
when you're a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Especially when you have a team that's got a really lousy front office. They're always going through coaches. Like, it's got to be hell to be a Cleveland Browns fan. And
oh God.
Being a DC fan's got to be like a Cleveland Browns fan right now. You know, like every other team in the league is doing fantastic, but you know, we keep drafting the same shit quarterback and paying him a ton of money
for no reason,
with no results. None. Sorry, Baker Mayfield. Nice try. No, hope those endorsements paid off.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's you know, it's a good thing to, and plus, you know, like you said too, it's a little childish, but it's this whole thing of just like, you know, you don't always get what you want. Why are we acting like this is the one thing that should be? We always get what we want.
And if I don't get it, I'm going to throw the biggest tantrum on Twitter, the likes of which have never been seen. You know, Kumail Nanjiani had the best joke. Okay, if you don't know who Kumail Nanjiani is, he's awesome in the Eternals.
Yep,
love that movie, by the way.
Yeah,
suck it, Bradley. Little shade. No, I'm just kidding. He always hates on it. Nah, I'm taking it back.
I'm taking it back.
Cersei's the leader, man.
I loved it.
But he was like talking about, like, complaining about his printer not working. And he's like, that's the equivalent of opening your window and shouting, hey, my printer's not working.
Right.
Okay. Nobody cares, dude.
Nobody's listening. Yeah.
Just go shut up, sit down in your corner and just be chill. And then, you know, like,
find a new printer. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's I agree. It's and I know he took a lot of stuff because the internet was all on him about his body and all that for the Eternals and all that. So he probably had a good lesson in figuring out how to deal with fandom in that type of sense, right? And all
absolutely.
But
stepping in the lion's den.
For real, yeah. People were, you know, that's the people got on about steroids and all that other crap, and it's. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think it goes back to like what you said, and I have a hard time. I'm trying to do that, just take a step back and basically just ignore, because I figured out too. Obviously, when you push back and when you do all that, you're basically just giving a lot of these guys what they want and
fodder.
right, exactly.
Just
More
giving
attention,
them ammo
more
to
fuel,
yeah.
more and so. But I do. That's why I wanted to have the conversation because I go back and forth of I don't want to say I don't want to fight with these guys on the internet. It's obviously not going anywhere, but it is. It's disheartening. I think these conversations should maybe conversations like this should be had where it's not. We're just looking more into how does this happen? Why does this happen? How do we push back in a way that's diplomatic? That's not giving them more fuel and more ammo and that type of stuff.
Honestly, I think it really comes to picking your battles, man. Like,
yeah.
And I've said this a couple times on stream. It's like not every hill is a hill to die on. Like,
yeah,
you can somebody can say something and it can really piss you off, but you can let it slide.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the schoolyard. This is not prison. You don't get extra points for being hard, on the internet. Like,
right.
Nobody's going to give you respect and a carton of smokes. It's not going to work that way. So I just think people need to, like, just in everything, just in the world, politics, it's like, be tolerant of other people's opinions.
Yeah.
Even if it's something you don't agree with, and I that could just, honestly, then we wouldn't have anything to talk about on the internet because I think it's all about disagreements.
A little bit, no.
But no, you could put your foot down. You could take a stand, okay, when it's right. What do they say? Like, walk quietly but carry a big stick.
Yeah.
Pick your moment, and when you do, I mean, it's like being on these panels when there's like 10 people, and you have something like somewhat profound to say.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find your moment. And when it comes, you take it, and then that feeling that you're like, yeah,
I got it.
I said my piece. People were nodding. I was like, yeah. So it's moments like that, and yes, you get an endorphin rush from that. So I understand why people do it. That will to be right and all that kind of stuff. My only thing I don't like about it it comes down to like snobbery. It's just very simple.
Sure.
It's so classist. It's ridiculous. I don't like that bit of it. The I know everything because this, that, and the other. Bow down to my knowledge.
Yeah.
When people like us are just sitting here talking about this stuff, speculating, just throwing shit against the wall, having no idea what's going on, and we're still coming up with.
And I think that's fine, right? Because we speculate a lot too. What if DC does that?
Of course,
that's fine, But that's where I start to get concerned because you see these guys do that, and then they mobilize their audience with that information.
Well, I got you. That's why I stopped watching Doomcock.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's the same tactics. It's just over a different. And the funny thing is they have the same scooper. But anyways, I'm just saying though, like, that's why people left that community and joined Max's community, because Max's community was about calling that out.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like I've done my bit in the war, as it were.
Sure.
I've said my things, done my piece, but now I just want to be like, hey guys, I've seen some stuff go down. I don't want this to happen to my friends. I will fight tooth and nail, and that's why I do. Whenever I put my foot down is when I see people starting to cross the line into that, where it's like, this is definitely going to happen, totally going to happen. I don't mind speculating with you guys. I don't mind rapping, but
yeah,
I draw the line when it comes to getting my hopes up. But that's why I stopped watching all of them. Like when it came to the anti-Hamada stuff with some of the DC friends at the time, those channels were those channels, and those fans wanted to hear that. That's what they wanted to hear, and it's like, people who watch Doomcock or watch Geeks and Gamers or watch any of those other channels, they go there because that's what they want to hear. That's how they want their information filtered down to them. My thing is if, you know, you don't watch it, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
If you don't engage with those fans, what difference does it make? Like I made a joke on Twitter. I was like, if a tree falls in a forest, does it ruin your movie?
Yeah.
You know, if a tree falls in the forest, it does make a sound, trust me. But there is nobody there to hear it.
Exactly.
So it's insignificant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think you're right. And I think obviously, like you said earlier, you know, probably sometimes a lot of us responding and taking on every little thing and stuff is only making them more significant and making them, you know, louder and louder. So I agree. I think but you know, it is just it sucks to, you know, to see people in the fan or to see, you know, good people in a chat, you know, now just turn because they believe a certain thing that you don't. You know, like you said, that it's peanuts. It's not worth a big deal or a big thing on the internet about, but
small potatoes.
Right. But that's what it's become. Well, to move the conversation before we close out here to some a little more positive stuff. Obviously, I know you're a massive Star Trek fan. We've been talking about it all day. What are your thoughts so far with this season of Picard? Because it's the only thing that I'm watching. You know, obviously they're going all over the timeline. I thought there was some cool stuff though. Do you think they're going to be bouncing around timelines all season? Do you think they're going to stay in one timeline? What do you think is going on there? What do you think?
Well, I mean, with Q involved, anything can happen.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm interested in seeing what happens here. I want to see if it interrupts First Contact and World War III and everything down the line. I kind of want to know about that. Deep Space Nine went to the same year in San Francisco.
Okay. Oh wow.
And yeah, so in that episode, basically what they were doing was they were creating sanctuary districts for the homeless population, and they would wall them off like ghettos back in like Poland.
Right.
You know, you couldn't get out, you couldn't get a job, you were just stuck there. They had a riot that, you know, Cisco had to stop, or, you know, took part in by assuming the role of a historical figure. It was a great episode, past tense, part 1 and 2. I'd highly recommend watching it, but there are little tie-ins that I've noticed.
That they're okay.
Okay, so I'm like, all right. So like when they did the ice raid, they said UHD cards, and that's what the identification cards were in you know, that episode Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
So I'm hoping we get to see more of that. I hope we get to see a little bit of crossover between the two, because like one of the guys is on the net or whatever. It's so funny, like what the 90s thought the 2020s were going to be. My goodness.
Right.
But pretty much like the 90s, except for this kind of worse. Worse, shittier music.
Right. We still can't teleport people, but we're close.
No. But no, I'm interested to see where that goes. I hope they don't jump around too much.
Okay.
But I also hope that they don't lay on the reason why people don't like the show too much. Well, the reason why a lot of, you know, the consensus on why a lot of people don't like the show is that it can be preachy, like all the time.
Got it.
Usually Star Trek would be preachy every once in a while, you know, in between weeks of, you know, an adventure episode, or, you know, an episode where they're like, oh, well, let's follow this particular character around the ship today, you know,
right.
Stuff like that. So I can understand, but it's just, I don't know. And then there's the ones that say, oh, it lacks positivity. It's not like the next generation. It's like, dude, the next generation hasn't been like that since the Next Generation.
Right.
The Federation had a war where they committed genocide.
It's not happy anymore. It's not happy.
There's no turning back from that. I'm sorry. You gave an entire species a pathogen on purpose.
Yeah. And
Federation.
Federation.
Whatever. Get out of here.
I think it's pretty cool, what they're doing and stuff. And I mean that'd be pretty cool if they do decide to connect it to the older stuff. I know and I'm kind of curious because I don't know too much about the whole timelines and all of that, but I saw there was some discourse among the fandom over this, and that was I guess what is it, Captain Kirk is coming back with his own series where he's
it's not going to be his own series. He's going to be in season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
Okay. But what's the deal that he's capping it? Are they so? Is all this new Star Trek stuff? Is it in canon with all the old stuff that has happened and everything?
Supposedly.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be kind of interested in seeing some of the early years of Kirk's 5-year mission. That'd be kind of cool. I know it's going to piss off old Trek fans, but at the end of the day, whatever. I mean, it's been years. You can get over it. Like
right. You can get over it. Okay, so that's what it is. It's his 5-year mission of where he has the Enterprise, or he doesn't have the Enterprise.
Yeah, he has. He's got command of the Enterprise. So like the original series would be the Space, the Final Frontier. It was a 5-year mission. Like the Next Generation was ongoing mission. This was a 5-year mission. So it'd be really interested to see that. I want to see more about Pike. I was hoping they would hold off on Kirk a little bit because I wasn't really interested in seeing him. But they already recast Spock twice. And I don't have a problem with that. Like, what are you going to do? Get 91-year-old William Shatner to come be Captain Kirk again?
Yeah, no. I mean, no. I mean, I think my confusion was that I thought it was taking place before he was supposed to have the ship. Like I thought it was at a place in the timeline where like Pike is still.
It's kind of right before the original series, is what I'm gathering. So
got it. Yeah. Very cool. But overall, I mean, I'm interested in the Picard thing. That's probably going to get me into stuff like Discovery. To be honest, Discovery looks kind of interesting.
Discovery's fun. It grows on you, but it's a good time.
Okay. Definitely want to check those out. But hey, man, I want to thank you obviously for coming on, for talking, for allowing chat and everybody just to kind of get to know you more and get to know your passions, your thoughts on the whole thing, because I know that seems to be a conversation a lot, just amongst all of us. I think is how do we effectively do something in the fandom that's positive, that counteracts these guys and what they do. That's not like you said, giving them fuel. That's not giving them ammo, but that's just kind of doing our own thing and try and bring something positive with that. I think the Pantheon's doing a great job of it. I think you're doing a great job of it. Max has been doing a great job of it for a long time now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just super interested in all that stuff because for me, when I joined YouTube and I started doing all this, I never watched YouTube before. I never was in any of these chats or any of this type of stuff. So, for me, it's really kind of fascinating just to see how it all happens so quickly, and it's like a little, it's a little scientific when you really watch it happen, break down,
Well, like that's kind of how I look at it. Like I went to automotive school, so I learned how to be an auto tech, and I look at everything kind of like a car problem. It's like, how do we negotiate this set of problems or this particular situation? And you lose some friends along the way. You find people who don't necessarily have, I mean, you're not going to find people who have your best interest out, of course not, like especially on here where a lot of it's ego and those nasty. Hey guys, hi everyone though. I haven't really been saying hi to everybody.
I know.
Hi Jay.
It's I like to do but no, thank you to everyone. in the chat. Obviously everybody was all saying hello, and Anthony was always, of course, in there saying some nonsense. Anthony Belcher.
Nonsense.
But no, thank you to everybody.
Is fun.
Yeah, I love this. Is fun. I agree. Brian is the most reasonable individual in the community. I think I have to agree with that.
I try.
He is the most level-headed. What's up, Hans? Good to see you, Hans. But no, thank you to everybody in the chat, everybody that stopped by. So I agree with this also, Hans. You also point out all the good the companies do, not just the bad. Yeah, that's true. And that's like with Warner Brothers, that's something I've kind of been arguing the last couple of weeks. Is like, look, are we happy with DC? No.
They're putting some positive stuff out there. You know?
But Warner Brothers is still like, they make a lot of great movies outside of DC. You know, they still make some great movies. And so I agree with that. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, Monday nights, 10 forward with Brian, 5 o'clock, right?
5 Pacific.
Yep, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard. Tuesdays, we got Jiving with Jack at 4:30 Eastern Standard. Every second and fourth Wednesday, greatest people I've ever met. So on the next one, we'll have either Jack or Max will be the guest for the next one. And then I'm trying to think. Fridays, we got what's Fridays? Dear God.
Williams on Fridays.
Oh, yes, the Sci-Fi Center live. Don't forget to tune into that. Obviously, he's got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and he gets some pretty cool guests on his show too. And then Saturday to the max. And of course, most nights you have the Point Dexter Lounge panel stream that Enosh hosts. So you can definitely find something for you here on the channel. There's a bunch of stuff. Don't forget to check out Brian's channel, my channel. All the links are in the description. All of that, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And we'll see you at the beginning of April, because that's when the next one is. So, again, guys, make sure to tune in, and peace out.